Hello, I'm Doug Simpson, co-owner of Feathercraft Kayaks. Our location here on Granville Island in the middle of Vancouver allows us to step right outside our door and visit some spectacular scenery. We enjoy paddling these kayaks as well as constructing them. This video will help you to put together your kayak for the first time. We suggest also that you use the written instructions. We're sure you're going to enjoy putting together your kayak, so let's begin now. On this video we're going to be assembling the double kayak, the two-person. Comes in this one large bag. The bag comes with shoulder straps that are padded and a 2-inch wide hip belt. Inside this bag is another bag that holds the skin. I'll take that out now. It has a 2-inch wide shoulder strap for carrying, so the load can be split up between two people and carried quite easily. Now this bag is made oversized, so that within the bag you can put life jackets and pumps and other gear that you might have, leaving of course lots of room in this bag for other personal gear. So I'll start to take out of the bag, these are the combings, 2 of them, and the frame pieces. As you take things out of the bag the first time, look and see how it was all packed, because you have to get it back into the bag when you're finishing off your first trip. As you can see, I've laid out all my frame pieces and my cross pieces. In my hand is a chine bar. They're round, they're color-coded yellow, and they're all shock-corded together. The gunnel bars are hinged, and they're color-coded blue. And the deck bars are also round as the chines, and they're color-coded green. All the keel sections are numbered, 1 through 6. The cross pieces, which are made of high-density polyethylene, are also numbered 1 through 6. You just match numbers. I'm going to unfold the rest of the keel here and start with the number 1, the bow, and join up and attach my pieces. This is the number 1 cross rib. I go to the number 1, set it into the keel. There are wings on the cross piece. I put the pin through the plate on the frame, push the wing down, and I'm in business. This is the bow chine bar. It has the foot brace for the bow paddler. There's a thumb screw that locks it in position. Let's just put that on and turn it down. I'll repeat on the other side. There's a little closure, a little clip that you push down afterwards. It just holds it in place. Now I have a deck bar that happens to be green. Put that on. There's a bow section. Let's go down to the keel, the stern, I beg your pardon, and we'll attach that. First I attach my bar. My black plastic ties I put in place. Take my number 6 cross rib, pop it in place, and attach the 2 gunnels. Exactly the same way as I did the bow. This time I'll put the deck bar on next. And we can put the chine bars on. Again, they're yellow, a little clip that holds it in position. Okay, we're ready now to move apart some of these pieces, unroll the skin, and we'll put the bow and the stern section into the skin. I've cleared a space now on the table so that I can roll out the skin. You can tell the stern of the skin because it has this strip glued on to the stern that accepts the rudder. And our Feathercraft logo is on the bow. Now I'll feed the bow section into the skin. There's rubber strips glued along the bottom of the hull. These strips guide the frame as you put it into the skin so that you're centering the frame as it's going in. You can actually reach forward through the hatch here and make sure that it's all centered as you go. Now I'll put the stern in exactly the same fashion. Making sure that the bars are going in between these foam rubber strips, as I described, and that it is indeed centered. This time it's a very good idea to put the rudder bracket in place. You just slip it over the end and push it down over the skin behind the strip that's glued onto the hull. This we call the rudder tongue. Slip it underneath the webbing on the deck at the stern here, and then back. For the time being, let's just put this eye pin into the hole to keep it all in position. Next, we'll put on one of the two hatches. The hatch is made out of ABS plastic. It's narrower at one end than the other. Orient the narrower end towards the stern, in this case, of the kayak. Let's start on this end, and we'll just feed the skirt that has shock cord in it around the rim, first on one end and then on the other. There we have it. Now I think we'll put one of the combings in place. In 2005 we changed our combing. We improved it in a number of ways. The older combing was fiberglass and it was separate, and you had to put the fabric into a groove. It was a little more difficult to assemble. The new combing is attached, welded right onto the skin, and there's a piece of plastic to the bow and the stern that is permanently in the skin. And then there are these two pieces here that you slide on the underside of the combing. That makes it all nice and rigid. Also, there are two bracing bars, and they're on the inside of the cockpit here, and they go against your thighs. And we've actually improved the bracing of the kayak substantially. It feels very, very secure in there. So let me show you how we install this. To begin with, there's a strap here that is attached to the inside of the combing. And take that and run it over the gunnel bar, back on itself, and do up the buckle. Leave it loose. You just want a sort of a nice loose loop here. Take the bracing bar with these holes facing aft towards the stern and run it through the loop and into the hole in the cockpit, into the cross rib at the stern, and then to the bow one. Leave this loop fairly loose. To lock it in place, there's a spring button. Depress it and then just push this aft until you've created some tension. And we'll leave this a little bit loose until we've installed these pieces. Now, to install these pieces, let me show you on this side. There's a pocket underneath, and there's a little tab that sticks down. I'm just going to be opening the tab up, and now I can just slide this into the pocket until the webbing, which is at the stern, is the only thing that sticks out. That's all there is to it. You're all set. Oh, there's one more step. Once you've done all that, it's time now to tighten this up until it's fairly tight. And then once I blow up the sponsons on the boat, the whole thing becomes quite rigid. So now it's back to your original assembly video, perhaps a few years earlier, and we'll see you there. After I've done this combing, we can do the combing which is identical on the bow, and of course the bow hatch, which is the same as the stern hatch. After that, it's time to attach the keel pieces, the final ones that go inside the skin. I'm just attaching the number 4 here, keel piece, to the piece that's above that. That's recognizable by this mast bracket, that it's either attached or there's a hole to accept that mast bracket. I'd like to point out at this time the material that we use is an alloy of 6061 T6 aluminum magnesium, commonly used on aircraft construction, also marine use. It's supplanted wood in our coast and many other places. It's stronger, and of course it has less maintenance. Let's attach the number 5 onto the keel section, lock it in place with our black tabs. Now we lift this up. Before doing that, let me show you this. This is a hinge piece here. There's a hinge here, and it swivels. So we'll be attaching these two pieces, locking it in place. And then in order to put some tension on the skin, we push down. You can see it moving apart. And now we take the stainless steel pin that's attached to that, push it through the frame. That locks it all in place. Time now to attach our gunnels. We'll start with the gunnel on my side, unfold it, and attach it to the stern, locking it in place, of course. Let's attach the other side. One thing to remember, as long as you're doing it correctly, no force will be required. If you find that you have to use force, then you're doing something wrong. I'm attaching now the gunnels. Now we'll go to the other side and do the same thing and lock it in place. At this point, I'd like to show you that the gunnels have brought the ends together of the two, the bow and the stern, and there's some rocker in the boat. This rocker is an important thing in the design of the kayak. It ensures that the boat rides up over a wave. But because those ends are up, it's drawing these two gunnels together. The next step is to take the number 3 cross rib, and I'll show you how to force them apart. Set it against the gunnel, as you see I'm doing, a bit of an angle, just at a bit of a slant, and then push it around. That spreads everything. Now we just lift the piece over the spacer on the keel, attach that screw, bring the wing nuts down. We can go now to the number 2 cross rib. It'll slide into place quite easily. And the wing nuts. Go back to number 5 now. We'll leave number 4 for the end. Number 4 cross rib has an asterisk on it, just above the number. We put that there just to remind you to put this one in last. And there's a special reason for that. It's the only cross rib that we have in the boat that instead of spreading the gunnels, we draw them together. You can see I'm pulling the gunnel in till it flips into position. I'll do the other on this side. The next step is to put in the chines, which are marked with the yellow tape. Put it in through the bow combing, as we've described before, and then bring it in underneath the cross ribs and attach it at the bow. In order to do that, just pull in a little bit on this chine bar here with the foot pedal to line it up. Head back to the stern, and you'll see how I'm folding back the shock cord here in order to line it up correctly. Then line those 2 bars up, pull back, and slide this over top of the 2 of them. Now let's just line these 2 up, turn this into place, and clip it. Let's put the other chine bar into place now, exactly the same way, through the bow cockpit, slide it aft, and slide this back on itself. I've put these two combings on the frame just to demonstrate the next steps. Remember that we've already attached them directly onto the skin. So next we'll attach the deck bars, marked with a green. And notice that there's a B for bow on this particular bar. Slide it underneath. There's a hatch here in the skin. I'll just reach through the hatch, the imaginary hatch, and do it up. The mid-deck bar has an extra bracket welded into it. Now this bracket holds the mast. The mast and of course the sail are an option, but this is a standard feature with the kayak. Notice that it will line up above the mast bracket that is installed here. So I reach down, put it in back here, and then up here, and I can screw this down. I can do the same with this one. When I'm screwing it, make sure that the threaded rod goes into the tubing. Let's do this one too. And I'll repeat with the stern one, which of course says S on it and also has green tape. There's a spring button in here that holds it all together. I rotate it until I hear it click. Now I'd like to demonstrate the seat. There are two components to the seat, the sling and the actual cushion that I have. The sling on top has two loops in which there are a bar on each side. There's an S here marking the stern bars. Forward ones, of course, have B. Underneath that are some loops with Velcro attached. These loops, there are two on each side, and what it enables us to do is to have an adjustable seat. There are three positions. Notice that this tube fits into the sleeve here. There's an outer sleeve and an inner sleeve. If I put a tube on each of the outer sleeves, then I have a deeper seat, that is lower. If I put each tube on the inner one, I have quite a high seat. And if I put one on the outside and this one on the inner sleeve, I have an in-between position. I've got it in between on this particular case. So let's wrap the Velcro sandwich up on one side and then the other. There are two positions of Velcro that we have too to take up the slack of the seat. Let's put it in behind the cross section and forward. There's a little spacer here that just pops into place. Also on the other side. Now I can put the seat cushion on. You'll notice that there are some grooves on the number 5 cross rib. We put the webbing from the back of the seat up through them with quick release buckle. Now the webbing that comes out of the bottom of the seat, let's wrap around the number 4 rib above the chine. It's a ladder lock buckle. I'll just do that up. And on the other side the same way. Now what this system allows you to do, besides being very comfortable initially, is while you're underway, you can adjust the angle of the seat and also to some extent the height of the seat. Feathercraft is known as having the most comfortable seat of any kayak. I think you'll see why. It's firm, holds you in position, yet it has some give to it. At this point, it's time to return back to the frame within the skin, and we'll get on to putting on the rudder. So this is where we are with the boat now. The frame is within the skin. We've got both combings on, hatches, seat cushions are in place. Just like to show you this mounting here that we have for the mast. Just pull the nylon with the neoprene onto it back, and you can put the mast right through this bracket. Let's go back to the stern now and install the rudder. We'll take the pin out and slide it in place, the white plastic over top of the black casting. And we can attach the sister clips, as we call them. They're stainless steel, from above and down. We'll go on to the other side now and do those two. And the rudder cord, which draws up the rudder, feed under the handle, through the eye, and just tie a knot in the cord. That enables you to just draw the rudder up and let it down. Now let's go to the hatches. In order to do the hatch up, take a tuck like I'm doing here. This is just like a waterproof storage bag, which many people are familiar with. Fold it down to the Velcro. On the inside of our hatch, we have a gasket of neoprene, which goes around the rim and draws up tightly on both sides with these toggles. It's important in heavy conditions such as surf that you do them up quite tightly in order to ensure that a dumping wave, can't pop the cover off. We're almost finished now. Let's just move forward with our 2 foot controls for the stern paddler. They will control the rudder. There's a shock cord coming out of the front of each of them. I'll just pass that through the main section and forward to the number 2 cross piece, and I'll hook it around itself